Chelsea are poised to try and poach Xabi Alonso as their next manager. We are being told that talks are currently going on, and he is actually amongst the top contenders for this Chelsea job. Now, in our video today, we are going to try and focus on Xabi Alonso. This is one manager who has been sharpened by the very best. He's worked under Jose Mourinho at Real Madrid, Pep Guardiola at Bayern Munich, worked under Carlo Ancelotti, worked under Rafa Benitez in Liverpool. And this manager is actually possessing all the key traits that these three managers bring. So what are they? Xabi Alonso has the man management of Carlo Ancelotti, the tactical awareness of Pep Guardiola, the pragmatism of Jose Mourinho and Rafa Benitez, and the mentality of Jose Mourinho. So how does he want to set his team? Kindly see this. The first thing I want us to look at is the in-possession tactics for Xabi Alonso, because he has a unique way in which he builds up. So Xabi Alonso's team generally line up in a 3-4-2-1. And this, they like to draw opponents high up to press them. Now, in the initial phases of play, what you will see is one wing back will push forward, and then the goalkeeper will step out, and Xabi Alonso's team will try to build from the back with the goalkeeper, the two center backs, and the two dropping pivots. Now, this allows them to have a natural midfield overload and have one pivot dropping deeper while the other staggering further, so that they're able to bounce the ball out. Now, if the opposition choose not to press the two pivots, then the two pivots can push the ball onto the two inside forwards who can get the ball and progress. Now, if the opposition decide to commit three players in the press and use to commit two double pivots to cover the two pivots, then they always have the option of going to the fullback, like in this case. You can see the opposition has committed three players and all midfield options are being covered. So you can see that Bayer Leverkusen is able to play the ball through the opposition. Now, opposition here has 5 players, but you can see the way Granit Xhaka is able to maneuver that situation and play the ball in between the lines. Or directly, the goalkeeper can just choose to play the ball directly long onto the wing back, who can actually get the ball and play the ball for the runs of the inside forward. That is one way that Leverkusen do that. Now, Leverkusen was so good at playing from the back that the opposition teams chose to sit back. Now, when the opposition teams chose to sit back, Leverkusen now will move into that back line of 3 center backs, then their wing backs who are generating the width. And you can see it here. And you notice one thing about Leverkusen, even the back three, you can see that one center back is actually more progressive. The wide center backs are more progressive with the ball. And then you can see that even the two twin tens who are there, and you can see how the wing backs are generating the width and how the striker is looking to occupy that central position. And once they get the ball, even when they lose the ball in this situation, they're in close proximity to do what we call the effective counter press. Now, the counter press is so important, especially when you have structured in a way that you're moving as a team. And what you notice is that teams generally move in a sync kind of situation, moving together and counter pressing together. Now, in this scenario, what you do expect now is that when there is that back three, and the opposition team choose to play press with 2 players, then the ball can easily be played either a bounce ball to the wide center backs. And as I had shown you, the wide center backs are ultra ball carriers. So that this one might suit players like Wesley Fofana, who like to carry the ball and run with it. Then once they carry the ball, they draw in a winger, then play the ball to the wing back, who can draw in a fullback and then play the ball onto the inside forwards. That is one way in which Chelsea might do it, or Leverkusen does it. Another way is when they choose to have a narrow setup where the opposition team chooses to prioritize closing the center of the pitch. Now, this is where the problem is, because the wide center backs become a natural outlet. And once the wide center backs become a natural outlet, they are more likely to carry the ball, look to draw in markers, then look to have to create triangles on either side of the pitch. This is something that we saw heavily, especially in Real Madrid when Rudiger carried the ball. And see these situations where triangles are being created on either side with either the winger, the inside forward and the wide center backs. And once that happens, is that when the ball is shafted out wide and the opposition fullback is dragged out, space opens between the fullback and the center back, the space that we call the half space. And this is one area that Xabi Alonso tries to attack the most. He wants to create overloads and also look to have quick switches of play. Like in this scenario here, you can see the ball is currently being on the left. You can see Vinicius holding that with. Once that ball is played to Vinicius and he draws this player out, then they can easily attack that half space. Now, because we've understood the way he likes to attack the half space, how does he look to play through the center? If the opposition chooses to use what we have seen in the Premier League, that is using a 4-4 to try and cover, you will see the inside forward dropping deep. We saw Florian Wirtz do this, and it's something that Fernandes can also do. And then you can have a striker dropping deep also to pick the ball, and then a runner making runs in behind. Like you can see in this case, Leverkusen are building with the back three, and you can see the two double pivots, and you can see the opposition are committing 3 players in that press. So the ball is played towards one double pivot. This pivot is immediately put under pressure, but he's not chuckling under pressure. He knows what to do. He plays to his secondary pivot. His secondary pivot is also put under pressure. He plays the ball onto Florian Wirtz, who has dropped deep. So Wirtz gets the ball. He's also put under pressure. But look at that backline. Defenders have been taken out of that backline. Once these defenders have been taken out, now you can see that the ball is easily played through. And in this situation, the pass can be played in behind and the opposition team will be in trouble. Here again, you can see Leverkusen have that ball and you can see the position of one pivot. You can see the position of the 2 center backs. The ball is played onto the pivot and you can see that the opposition team is seated in a 4-4-2. Now, once this ball is collected, there is able to be a player, a man in between the lines who's able to pick the ball. In this case, again, it's Florian Wirtz. So this ball, Granit Xhaka gets it. He's able to play it to Florian Wirtz. Once the ball is played to Florian Wirtz, he's able to turn and play his wing backs. And you have runners. So whenever a player picks the ball in between the lines, there's always runners who are willing to make runs. So this ball is able to be played in that area of space, and in that situation, a simple pass from Florian Wirtz is able to put the striker in a 1v1 situation. I think this is something that can really work if you have Cole Palmer and Fernandes picking that ball in between the lines as inside forwards and playing it for the runs of João Pedro, who is a very elite finisher when it comes to actually positioning himself in areas on the pitch. Now, the next thing is also to understand that there are runners in behind. So you have a situation where you have these players who are pinning the opposition backline deeper, and you can see the way they're looking to attack that space in behind. Having runners constantly making runs in behind is also another great advantage. Now, the situation that we also have here is that you find that even if the opposition try to close the center of the pitch, the wide areas naturally become an outlet for Xabi Alonso. And how that happens is that when the wide center backs choose to stretch out wide and even to some extent play as full backs, it means that they not naturally create that overload together with their wing backs. And by that, they're able to bypass the first line of pressure and get themselves into the final third with inside forwards constantly making underlapping runs. Now, the opposition might choose to shift towards one side. And once they do that, there's always a quick shift of play onto the other side. Like in this scenario here, the ball is shifted out wide. The wingback has the ball. And you can see that there are a lot of players in that zone who are willing to come out and actually get the ball. So here again, you can see the ball is there. I'm showing you how they look to utilize the wide areas when the central areas have been covered. So the ball is out here. The wingback is able to make a run. This is Frimpong. And you can see that Frimpong fancies himself when it comes to his pace. So he gets the ball. The ball is played here. And you can see in this scenario, the striker is making that run. But Frimpong is very smart. He makes a lovely cutback. And Florian Wirtz finishes. So it's all about even having wing backs who are able to whip in across. So it might work well for his James, but Malo Gusto will have to improve his overall delivery in the final third. Another thing you constantly see is the way the wing backs position themselves on the line of the shoulder of the last defender. You can see here Florian Wirtz has picked the ball and he already has runners, the striker who had dropped deep to drag the center back out of position, as well as Frimpong. And you can see that Florian Wirtz is able to play the ball onto the striker in this case. the defender attempts to foul the striker. If he fouls him here, it's a very dangerous situation, but the striker is able to beat the defender. It's 1v1 with the goalkeeper, and once he's in this position, it's a definite goal. And these are the kinds of areas that Xabi Alonso wants his team to occupy. Now, what we notice is also the far post crosses, the crosses which are targeted at the far post, because switches of play and whipping in crosses in the far post is also a key metric of Xabi Alonso's game. You can see in this scenario here, Leverkusen have the ball and they're looking to drive towards the attack. And you can also notice that Leverkusen's strategy of attack is always, it heavily relied on the right hand side. We had a lot of crosses from the right hand side. Now, because of that, what you noticed is that there were constantly balls being played in this scenario. Now, look at without possession. What used to happen without the ball? Now, without the ball, Leverkusen would press high, but in a 5-2-3. But this 5-2-3 was quite unique in the way they look to press. The wide players will be quite narrow, while the midfield will look to pick up any players in midfield and try to force the ball out wide. Now, once the ball is forced out wide, the wing back is the one who will spring out to cover the fullback while the entire defense shifts across. That was a key metric. The wing back will shift out wide while the entire defense shifts into a back four. And this was to try and stop the opposition from actually progressing with the ball. And having the midfield covered and forcing the opposition wide into one area ensured that Leverkusen constantly won the ball higher up the pitch. And you can actually see it from their effectiveness of their pressing numbers. And once they win it, they immediately transition into quick counterattacks where they can score goals. But Xabi Alonso is not just about constant pressing. No, sometimes he knows when to sit deep and grind a result. In this case, he chose to sit deep and have his wingers coming narrow and then his wing backs covering the wide areas. So Xabi Alonso is going to come and impact three things. He's a very great man manager, he's a very great tactician, and one thing, he's going to command respect and discipline in the dressing room. So do you think that Xabi Alonso deserves the Chelsea job? Leave your comments in the comment section area below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.